Hey everyone, welcome back to Bryan's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. I hope everyone is doing well. Today we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Laura Macke. Before we get into that, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping things. I just wanted to let everyone know I hadn't been to the post office, my P.O. box, in over 6 months. But I wasn't sure if it had been canceled or not. It hadn't. I actually paid for the full year. I couldn't remember, but I had gotten a lot of your messages and mail, and I just wanted to thank everybody at the end of the video. I'll have some thank yous and go over all that. So let's get into today's video. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the disappearance of Laura Macke. She is a 35-year-old female, 5'6", 200 pounds, with curly light brown hair that she usually wore up in a bob. Now, she went missing on November 2nd, 2022. She had a backcountry permit for October 30th through the 31st. She was traveling solo through Olympic National Park, which is here in the United States, in Washington, the state of Washington, excuse me. And all these pictures are from Olympic National Park. As you can see, there's waterfalls, there's tons of mountains. It also goes around the shoreline. Now, she had planned, her intended route was to the Enchanted Valley. I'm going to have some pictures of that here in a second. She was going to stop and camp at Pyrites Creek. She also indicated that she would be in the backcountry till November 1st. So there really wasn't any cause for concern for her family or friends until November 2nd, when she didn't return. She has been known to hike in black and white, in a black and white striped shirt, a rain jacket, a maroon colored puffy jacket. She was experienced. She had done hikes like this in the past. Now, this is a map of where the red dot is, where the Enchanted Valley ends. So it's sort of in the southeastern part of the park. However, it's in a very mountainous area. As you can see, this is part of Enchanted Valley. Once you get in there, if you're injured or something happens, it would be very difficult to get out. You're surrounded by these huge mountains. Unfortunately, also things that were working against many hikers and myself this year was that winter came very early. There was massive snowstorms that dumped, depending on where you were, 3 to 4 feet of snow within a couple of days. And as you can see, small creeks like this, even though they're small, they can do a lot of damage. This is a creek that's also in the park. These are giant waterfalls. You can see if you were to fall, it's a very, very long way down. And unfortunately, I had experience with that this summer myself too, not in a waterfall, but a creek. There's also tons of caves. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. But unfortunately, now this is a video of the first blizzard that hit where I was in the northern Sierra, and it just came up like nothing. And it snowed like this for 3 days straight. Sometimes it was snowing 4 inches an hour. Now imagine if you were out in the wilderness and it was snowing that amount and you only had your gear for a couple of days. You really would be in trouble. So unfortunately, like I said, this year was very challenging for hikers that were in those areas that weren't suspecting that kind of weather, because it did come up very, very fast. According to statistical data all over the West Coast and in the mountains and in the parks, this was the earliest the snow had come in almost 13 years, between 10 and 13 years, depending again on where you were. But all up and down the Sierra, the Cascades, up through Oregon and Washington State, there was massive amounts of snow before the beginning of November. I mean, that's just crazy. Last year, the heaviest snow really didn't come until around Christmas time. So of course, search and rescue immediately was dispatched. Olympic National Park search and rescue immediately took the reins and was doing a hard target search. But again, in this kind of weather, there are so many other factors that are working against search and rescue. For one, you can't see the trail. Now, obviously these guys are highly trained. They know where the trails are, but it's much harder than in the summer when you can see the rocks and different things. There's also the chance of always falling through the ice. The dogs obviously can't smell as well through all this winter weather and the ground being covered. And two, depending on where the person went missing, the circumstances, evidence, clues are all covered up. It's much harder for helicopters, even with the advanced technology, to locate someone who's went missing. The search and rescue teams knew they had to make this a very hasty search because they knew they had limited time. The search and rescue personnel that they hiked into the wilderness on that Thursday, they began their search right after Mac had been reported missing. A U.S. helicopter was immediately dispatched and conducted what is known as a preliminary search around that area, but unfortunately due to the weather they had to turn back. Additional searches then took place on that Friday, November 4th. Again, however, because of the severe weather, it was just rough. They kept having to turn back. They, of course, put out alerts to anybody that was in the Pyrites Creek or Enchanted Valley areas between October 30th and November 1st to hopefully get some tips on the tip line, but unfortunately none of this panned out either. It is worthy to note that the search for Mac involved over 19 agencies, including personnel from Mount Rainier National Park, Olympic Mountain National Park, Jefferson County Search and Rescue, Callahan County Search and Rescue, Tacoma Mountain Rescue, Pierce County Search and Rescue, Mason County Search and Rescue, Pierce County German Shepherd Dog Search Team, Snohomish County German Shepherd Dog Search Team. So there was just a ton of people and dogs involved in this search, but unfortunately, again, because of the weather, it was very difficult, but they did an amazing job. They had people out day and night trucking through then, which was feet of snow, still having all kinds of terrible freezing rain, snow. That's really rough. I'm not gonna lie, I've been in similar situations only once or twice, and it is very, very difficult. You're cold, you're wet, so I can't imagine what the person who is missing is going through. Often when we think about these missing person cases, we often just think about daylight and what it would be like to be able to see clearly. In reality, sometimes these people are missing through days and nights, and it is absolutely terrifying when you're out in the middle of nowhere. It is pitch black, especially if there's inclement weather. You can't see where you're going. If you're injured, possibly have lost some of your gear, have no shelter. It is noteworthy that on some of these mountains and a lot of these parks, there's these old abandoned buildings, old ranger stations. If you were able to find one of them, at least you would have shelter. However, in these type of conditions, it's almost impossible, not impossible, but it's very difficult to start a fire to help keep warm because so much is covered in snow and wet. So you have to deal with so many other things that we often don't think about. Unfortunately, in this case, by November 10th of this year, 2022, after extensive searches by all these groups that I mentioned, they did have to call off the search, and they made a public statement saying that the substantiability or the statistical odds of her surviving that amount of time were very slim, which is very sad when you have to come to that realization, especially when it's somebody very close to you and there's been so much effort put in to try and find the person and just thinking about what they may have gone through. In this particular case, I'm not really sure there was much more she could have done to prepare, except maybe bring some more winter gear, but it was just so early in the season, and that storm, those storms that came through weren't predicted until she would have already been in the park. They came up very fast and very unsuspectedly because it was just so early. I mean, who would have thought that by the end of November, not that it's unheard of, it does happen a lot in these areas, but it hasn't happened in years. One thing that always improves your odds anytime, especially if you're going into the later part of the fall and coming into winter, is go out with a group, more than one person. If something does happen, your odds of survival are much greater. When I was up heading into Oregon, I didn't quite make it. I took this video to show you how dark it is and what it looks like, which I'm sure some of you are already aware of. And this is what it looks like when you're in the middle of nowhere. With no lights. Yeah, absolutely terrifying. Unfortunately, Laura Mack was never found, and I just sending hopes and prayers for the Mack family and everybody who loved and misses her. Thoughts and prayers for Laura herself and her family, everybody who helped look for her, and just hoping you find closure. Sending you lots of love during this holiday season and praying that you find peace with this terrible tragedy. I want to thank everybody for watching, as always. Special thank you to co.ag for providing the background music. Wishing you all a happy holiday, a good weekend, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me till the end. As I stated in the beginning, I wasn't sure if my P.O. box was still active, and it was something I was very concerned about, so I finally was able to get over there. It is still active, like I said, and I did get a ton of your mail, and I'm just so appreciative, and some of it was dated back till right when I left back in May and June, so I do apologize that I wasn't able to thank you sooner or acknowledge it. So at the end here, I'm just going to have a little my wreath that I made for my door for Christmas, and a thank you to all of those that have shown their support, and also an overall thank you to everyone who comments, sends me messages. I just really appreciate all your support and help during these times, because I'm still making all these videos from my phone. I'm still working full time, so I do appreciate all your help and love all of you guys, and wishing you a great holiday.